I last did a video. I have not been well at all and everybody in my family has not been well at all. So this is the first video that I'm doing, still coughing, after how long? Yeah. I was going to do a typical shopping haul for Christmas, stuff like that, but I was like, ugh, whatever. I'm just going to do another crime-based investigation kind of thing. Yeah, not very Christmassy, but why don't I just do my own thing like I always do? Yeah. So let's get into it. So this is going to cover the case of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Yeah, I think I said that right. So this was a true story case, and it was also made into a Netflix series with Joey King as the main character, I believe.
This is the state's case against Gypsy Rose Blanchard.
She's got paraplegia, epilepsy, heart murmur, and she's allergic to sugar. Everything I do for her.
My mom is my best friend. All she wants to do is keep me safe.
Gypsy!
Have you been able to confirm the girl's medical history?
Which part?
Any of it?
That's what being a mom is. Never being sure you're doing the right thing, but doing it anyway.
I'm with the Children's Division of Missouri Social Services.
Oh, no.
Open.
Gypsy's got the mind of a 7-year-old.
How old are you?
Oh, she's 15, born in 1995.
I thought you said I was born in 1993.
I'm just going to ask you a few questions, all right? Can you read?
Do you love me?
What are you giggling about?
I met my Prince Charming. Hi.
I never once disrespected my mama the way you do.
I'm so trapped. I can't tell anyone.
You can tell me.
Nobody's gonna ever do more for you than I do.
She's never gonna let us be together.
And this is basically a story that's piled into one situation where Gypsy Rose was a child who, according to people who knew her, police reports, any investigation into it, she was basically brainwashed by her mum into thinking that she was poorly, constantly ill, a cancer patient, and yeah, her mum would use her to get money for other people, get, you know, sponsors from other people, basically living their life, being given housing, food, clothes, free trips to like Disneyland and things like that. And basically along the story is, or as the story goes, Gypsy Rose eventually finds out that her mother is lying about her condition and plots to kill her mum. So now there is one side of the story that states that Gypsy just killed her mum out of anger for what she'd been through. You know, obviously being brainwashed into believing that she was poorly and everything. Other people say that her mum had a mental health issue and she just made her daughter sick because she liked the attention. She, you know, she may have suffered from Munchausen by proxy. If I've got that wrong, I'll put it here. But yeah, it's basically where people want attention, so they make someone ill so that they're constantly getting attention. And there's also the other side to it where Gypsy Rose just had enough and killed her mum because she felt danger to her life, that if her mother ever got hold of her again, she would do everything she could to make sure Gypsy was under her control. So yeah, you might have an opinion on this already, you might not. You might know a lot of the detail, you might not. So I'm going to get into it either way. So Gypsy Rose Alcida, I think I've said that right or wrong, I don't know, Anderson Blanchard, was born on July 27th, 1901. She became very worldwide known because of her condition and also because she was charged and convicted of second-degree murder of her mother. She killed her mother DeeDee in Springfield, Missouri. Like I said, her defense was that she had killed her mother in self-defense because her mum had given her a lifelong suffering, or her mum had made her suffer lifelong mental and physical ill health, and she'd received medical abuse at the hands of her mum. She would receive 10 years prison time for this sentence. She was, however, later paroled after only serving 8 years of her sentence in December 2023. Gypsy was given a lot of attention and possibly her sentence reduced slightly because of the significance of her crimes that her mother had committed on her. As in, like I say, she had brainwashed, some say, brainwashed her daughter into thinking that she was ill, used her for financial reasons, obviously made her believe that she was a cancer patient at one time, and so she would have received cancer treatment. One point is that she at one point was abused by DeeDee, which we'll get into later. DeeDee had led Gypsy Rose to believe that she was terminally ill and she would not be getting better, basically. She was eventually going to die no matter what. And she also brainwashed Gypsy into being confused about her date of birth, therefore being confused about how old she actually was. And this was made, this TV series was made whilst Gypsy Rose was in prison. Gypsy Rose, even at one point, was featured on Dr. Phil.
You got put in a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
And you were 7 years old, correct?
Yes, sir.
Why did she tell you were going in the wheelchair?
I did get into a motorcycle accident with my grandfather, and it skinned my knee. And she took me to the hospital and then told me that the doctor gave her a wheelchair and I have to be in a wheelchair now.
Forever?
Forever. She had me use a walker before the wheelchair. And then after that motorcycle accident, put in the wheelchair.
Why did she tell you you had to be on a walker?
She said that I had muscular dystrophy.
But did you feel any different the day before you got the walker than the day you did have the walker?
No, sir.
You were able to run around?
Pretty much, yes.
And would you forget to get it and run into the kitchen?
There would be times that I'd forget to grab it and then go to walk. And then my mom would catch me and be like, use your walker.
A question, and the answer I got from DeeDee was, she had a disease she was diagnosed with, and it was going to progressively get worse, and eventually she was going to be bound to the wheelchair at all times.
Now, bearing in mind she had been paroled in December of 2024, she then got her own TV reality show in 2024. It was called Gypsy Rose Life After Lockup. So that's the brief, an extra brief. So we're going to get into a bit more detail of who Gypsy Rose and DeeDee were. Gypsy was born to DeeDee, or Claudine, Blanchard. She was 24 at the time, and her dad was 18, who was called Rod Blanchard. DeeDee was known to have complained from the moment Gypsy Rose was born, wasn't right, and that she seemed poorly from day one. Now, I say that she's not a doctor and a nurse. As a parent myself, I do know what kind of signs to look out for if my children are sick, but you're talking about a basic bug, or even working in education, I see signs that my children might be delayed or missing certain milestones. I'm not sure how a parent could automatically say my child has cancer or my child is, this severe illness at that such a young age. There might be people out there that have a different opinion on that, but me personally, I'm not sure, because the only people that would say that would be the doctors that delivered the baby, because obviously they do checks when babies are born, like listening, looking, the movement of the bones. If doctors didn't really point anything out, then I wouldn't be too concerned, but again, that's just me.
Spirit of a young teenage girl.
So where are you going today? I'm going to Children's Mercy Hospital to see my dentist for my teeth.
full of enthusiasm and effervescence, but behind the smiles, life for Gypsy Blanchard and her mother DeeDee is one replete with hardships and challenges. Gypsy is in a wheelchair.
They were local darlings. I mean, they're a shining star in this town of people who can outlast adversity and get through.
The mother-daughter duo are local celebrities, the subject of countless local news profiles and articles.
Gypsy and her multis and diseases, leukemia, muscular dystrophy. She had learning disabilities, had not been able to be out of a wheelchair since she was 5 years old. And so
DeeDee's originally from Louisiana, a one-time beauty queen.
Military queen, Miss Claudina P.
And nurse's aide. She marries Rod Blanchard at age 24. Together, the couple welcomes a beautiful baby girl.
Perfectly healthy, pretty little baby. Named her Gypsy Rose. I was excited and very scared. I'm 18 years here, so.
But she was beautiful and perfectly healthy.
Yeah, she was. Nothing wrong with her. She looked perfect.
I see you. You want to blow me a kiss? Very good.
But the relationship was far from perfect, and the couple broke up.
Not long after, DeeDee was saying that she was sick, problems sleeping, epilepsy, and it just progressed from there. Leukemia, paralyzed, muscular dystrophy, and she would have seizures. Gypsy was probably 7, 8 years old. She's in a wheelchair now. She needs a feeding tube.
Was DeeDee a good mother?
I told DeeDee she was the best mother. There's no way I can do what you're doing. You have a sick child, it's constantly 24/7 taking care of her and everything. I mean, I always praised her and told her, good job.
Rod and his new wife, Christy, would have sporadic visits with Gypsy, but they are never alone.
You know, all the visits, DeeDee had to be there the whole time. Something never felt right about it. Just DeeDee was so controlling of her.
So again, when Gypsy was still young, but of a certain age of understanding, understanding of a certain level, she was told by her mum that she had muscular dystrophy. If you don't know what that is, it's a genetic neuromuscular disease that causes weakness and breakdown of skeletal muscles, and over time it gets worse, whereby the person eventually needs to have a walker or a mobility chair. There is currently no cure for this. There is only physical therapy just to keep you maintaining as much as you can. At this point, DeeDee would insist that Gypsy Rose needed a walker to get around. She was adamant that she could not stand on her own, not walk on her own or anything like that. When Gypsy was between 7 and 8 years old, she was in a small motorcycle accident with her granddad. Even though she only suffered a minor knee abrasion, so like a little scab on the knee, this gave DeeDee ammunition and encouragement to say that Gypsy now needed a wheelchair. Again, I'm assuming that she would have seen medical attention, I'm assuming, but DeeDee was just like, nope, she definitely needs a wheelchair now. After Hurricane Katrina destroyed their house, Gypsy and her mum would eventually go live in a rented house in Aurora, Missouri. While Gypsy was then honoured by the Olay Foundation. These are people who speak on behalf of the rights of sick people that need feeding tubes. She was honoured as Child of the Year in 2007. Now, it's a fair point to recall that even at this point, Gypsy herself knew that she could eat. She knew that she was able to chew, she knew she could manage food, and she became confused as to why she needed a feeding tube, but her mum was so adamant to have her having a feeding tube. Again, the more control she had over Gypsy, the more happy she felt that she was in control of Gypsy and getting attention from everybody else because of this.
Did you ever say to her, Mother, I can walk. Why am I in this wheelchair?
No, sir, I never asked that.
When she wasn't around, did you get up and walk secretly?
I did, yes, sir.
Did she ever catch you walking?
She did a couple times.
And what did she say or do?
She got so upset with me, she would punish me so bad. Like, she started hitting me with a coat hanger and telling me all kinds of mean things. She would tell me that she wished she had an abortion when she had the chance, that I ruined her life, that I have no idea how hard it is to keep up everything she built.
Did you understand that you being sick was necessary to keep up what she built? Because you got a house from Habitat for Humanity, you got donations, you got different things from people for being sick.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a source of income for her, right?
It was, yes. And I had no idea that I was a part of that.
You didn't know that you were a cash cow.
No.
DeeDee got a house from Habitat for Humanity. They would have free trips here and there, free flights. She was getting some money from a couple of celebrities. Their life was full of free stuff, I guess, fun stuff.
Gypsy even knew that she could walk without walking aids or a wheelchair, but she said that due to fear of her mum and consequences, which again we'll get into later, she decided to play on the whole lie and just pretend that she was sick and that she did need a feeding tube. Now, a little point here is that I'm just confused as to, you know, Gypsy claims a lot that her mum brainwashed her. But obviously at certain points in her life, she was like, I can feel like I can eat, I can feel like I can walk, I know I can manage these things. And I get that she was scared of her mum, but she also claims later on in life that she was, you know, manipulated by her mum a lot. I don't know how to distinguish a difference between knowing that you don't need this stuff to, okay, I'm completely brainwashed by my mum. She obviously still had it inside her head, that she knew she could do stuff and she knew that she was lying. But I don't know. This is where the difference in opinions come. She said that she did it in self-defense because she was being brainwashed, but she still knew that she was actually okay. So does that mean she was still brainwashed, or does it mean that she just did it because she was scared of being manipulated still? Opinions are welcome. So in 2008, Habitat for Humanity is a non-government, non-Christian non-profit group, build affordable houses. Again, she's getting another handout. Built DeeDee and Gypsy a home with a ramp and a hot tub as part of a home project in Springfield.
And she said, one day this will be real. And now it finally is.
The Blanchards moved into that house, built by Habitat for Humanity. A wheelchair ramp was built just for her.
In the north of Springfield. So again, they're obviously aware that she is poorly and that DeeDee is a known self-mother, you know, a single mother, shall I say, because at this point there's no mention of the dad. And it's like she's getting the constant handouts, and now she's had a home made for her. She doesn't have to pay for it. There's been a ramp created for the wheelchair. So again, she has another handout. When the media heard about their situation, that they had been forced out of their home because of Hurricane Katrina and had been given this home by a charity non-profit organisation, the media got hold of the story again. And because of this, DeeDee was described as a single mother who was caring for a very sick and disabled little girl, basically a mum of the century, a mum of the year, you know, putting her selfish needs aside and taking care of her daughter. The fact that they were forced to be homeless meant that the community decided to gather together and donate towards DeeDee. One interesting thing is that it's being reported that when people would meet Gypsy Rose, they would report meeting a little girl who was very lovely. She was described as 4'11", nearly toothless, large glasses, a high flared voice, which people just assumed that her parents just backed up the fact that she was ill. So she was obviously looking the part. One thing that people didn't know, obviously, was that DeeDee was using a cancer story or storyline to not only convince people that Gypsy had cancer, she was using this as a story to give an excuse to Gypsy so that she could shave her head, which further encouraged the idea more that she had cancer. She would tell Gypsy Rose that you're going to lose your hair anyway, so we might as well shave it off. So this further gave Gypsy Rose the look of a cancer patient going through chemotherapy. Again, making her look more sicker than she actually was. Therefore, more people believed the storyline that she was poorly. As a result of this, again, further backing up the cancer idea, Gypsy would now start wearing headscarves or wigs to cover up her bald head. Things got so severe with this cover-up of Gypsy's illness that DeeDee at some point managed to make sure that Gypsy Rose would not leave the house without an oxygen tank, which was supposed to be helping her to breathe. She would also be seen wearing a feeding tube. Further backing up the idea that Gypsy Rose could not eat or drink without a feeding tube, Gypsy was then put on a liquid diet, which would be a nutritional supplement for pediatrics or children of her age, and she would continue having this up to the age of 20. So again, DeeDee has now removed her ability to walk, or her chance to walk and be independent. She has shaved the girl's hair off so that she will look like an extremely sick person. She has a ramp on the house that they've just been gifted. They have donations coming in from the communities around them because of the sob story. And now she is having a constant look of looking sick, wearing a feeding tube, having an oxygen tank, and her diet has completely changed, which would obviously make her image look even more sicker than it is, because it's not getting the proper treatment or the proper nutrients. Well, it's getting nutrients, but if your body is not sick but you're trying to make your body sick, it can have an impact. Now this is where it gets even worse, as much as it wasn't already. Gypsy Rose has been said, and you can probably see this in interviews, if I can find them I'll try to put them in for you. When they were being interviewed because of their sob story, if Gypsy said something wrong or was saying too much, her mother would be holding her hand and would start squeezing it tightly, which was a hint to Gypsy Rose to basically shut up or stop talking, or basically just say, I'm not sure, kind of thing.
I'm just going to ask you a few questions, all right? Can you read?
To avoid any further answers and to avoid any kind of contradiction to what Gypsy Rose was being sick by or going through. Gypsy Rose would appear on TV interviews like she was getting better. The same thing would happen. You know, DeeDee would either butt in or, again, very strongly hold her hand as if to say, be quiet, or, you know, you're making yourself look even better, so you need to go back to looking weak. Gypsy would later say, or report, shall say, that when they were alone after giving interviews or speaking to people, if Gypsy Rose had said something wrong or said too much, her mum would make it known that she was out of line and would punish her by either hitting her with an open hand or with a coat hanger. And DeeDee's cover-up story, or I don't even know the word for it, her entire sick storyline or sick lie encouraged DeeDee to tread lightly with information or evidence that she had of Gypsy Rose and her real condition, her real age. She even managed to forge her birth certificate and change Gypsy Rose's birth year to 1995 to try to convince people that she was still a teenager. Gypsy would then therefore claim that for 14 years she had no idea of her real date of birth and she had no idea of her real age. DeeDee would always claim that the original birth certificate was damaged in Hurricane Katrina. But obviously DeeDee, being in control of a lot of things, she actually had the original birth certificate, she just kept it secret, obviously. Gypsy Rose states that at one time she saw the original when they went on a hospital visit one time, and she saw the dates of her birth certificate and became confused. But her mum made up an excuse saying that the birth certificate had a misprint on it, therefore not to take it seriously. To add to Gypsy's state of mind as a child, or her behaviour as what a child should be, or a teen, she would attend conventions that involved her being able to dress up in fantasy or science fiction costumes. She would say that dressing up, she could pretend her wheelchair was something else, so she could pretend to be someone different. In 2011, it is said to have been a belief that Gypsy Rose attempted to run away from her mum. She was found in a hotel bed with a man she had met online. In order to make sure this would never happen again, Gypsy Rose's mum DeeDee would produce paperwork that pretended to state that Gypsy Rose was a young minor and threatened to go to the police if this man, who is not named, would get back in touch with Gypsy and never try to date him again. date her again. Clear to say, this never happened, or shall say, he was very scared and did not bother getting back in touch with Gypsy Rose. After this, it is said by Gypsy Rose that DeeDee smashed up her computer using a hammer, and she would also smash the fingers of Gypsy Rose as a threat that if you do this again, this is going to happen. According to Gypsy Rose, DeeDee then tied her to the bed and would beat her for weeks after, just as a reminder that if you try to do this again, this is what's going to happen to you. Basically putting fear of her life. One contradicting thing about this, however, again, DeeDee could have got rid of every single bit of evidence, like relating to this story or to this part of the story, but when eventually Gypsy Rose's house was searched, there was no evidence of any kind of cuffs or belts or anything like that that was apparently used to tie Gypsy Rose up and beat her. Further later on, DeeDee would take the next step of making things even worse for Gypsy Rose, especially not to be believed, and she would file for Gypsy Rose to be registered as mentally incapacitated or incompetent. Therefore, she could not be trusted by anybody, no matter what she said to the police or anyone else around her. People would assume that she's not well, so whatever she's saying, it can't be true. DeeDee was like, you realise that whatever you say now, no one's going to trust you. Eventually, around 2012, Gypsy Rose was trusted to use the phone and internet again. She would make contact with a man called Nicholas Godejohn. I don't know if I said that right. He was actually the same age as her and from Big Bend in Wisconsin. Gypsy Rose said that she met him on a singles Christian website. Now this is where it gets a bit confusing. I'm not sure if Gypsy at one point had the idea to have an experiment with her sex life, or, well, she didn't even have a sex life, but to experiment with her feelings towards men and women. But in 2014, she confessed her situation to her neighbour, 23-year-old Aaliyah Woodmansey. Even though they were technically the same age, Aaliyah felt like she was a sister to Gypsy Rose. But again, in a confusing way, and going back to Gypsy Rose possibly experimenting, Aaliyah said that they felt like sisters, but they even talked about running away and possibly having children. Or maybe she meant it as, you know, sister kind of thing. We'll run away and have children. I'm not sure. It gets a bit confusing for me, that little fact, so yeah. I wouldn't really say to my sister-in-law, let's run away and have children. That would be something I would say to a lover. Or am I wrong? Now, Gypsy Rose started getting a bit smarter with her situation, and would eventually have 5 different social media accounts so as to hide everything from her mum. She would use different accounts in order to flirt with Nicholas, who she'd met online. In conversations with Nicholas, she would be talking in terms of verbal BDSM. If you don't know what BDSM is. However, later on, when she was questioned about this, she would say this was more Nicholas's idea than hers. Again, another thing pointing to, is she just confused, or is she just brainwashed, or is she just not aware of what is reality and what's normal? What is reality and what's made up? Yeah, she has constantly contradicting situations, but again, that is a question, it brings to a question of, was the way her mum brought her up to be like completely blinded by all these illnesses and pretend to be like this, pretend to be like that? Maybe she didn't know the difference between making something up or truly wanting something. Now, Aaliyah, the neighbour, the 23-year-old neighbour who she wanted to run away with, because she believed obviously that Gypsy Rose was still young, she was actually trying to convince Gypsy Rose not to date Nicholas, that she tried to convince Gypsy Rose that Nicholas seemed more like her, because obviously Gypsy Rose was supposed to be young, why would he be flirting with her? Yeah. Aaliyah would later on go on to say that she believed that Gypsy Rose was just having fantasies and ideas, but she wouldn't really be serious about it. Or maybe she was hoping that Gypsy Rose wouldn't be serious about it. DeeDee was apparently the one who stopped the correspondence when she smashed up the computer the first time. However, Aaliyah would later on say that she had saved and printed conversations off that she and Gypsy Rose had about whatever conversations they had, as evidence. So, yeah. In 2015, Gypsy Rose arranged a first-off meeting face-to-face with Nicholas. She would arrange to get Nicholas to Springfield, where she lived. She would make a plan to go to the movies with her mum, and she would secretly meet Nicholas there. The plot was that they would pretend to meet each other in the hallways as a random stranger. But according to Nicholas's point of view, or side of the story, when they met, yes, they did bump into each other as strangers, but then they would later hook up in the toilets and have their first sexual encounter. Again, according to Nicholas, it was Gypsy Rose that encouraged this encounter, but she would deny it. She would say it was more of his idea, but she went along with it. After this encounter, it is said by Nicholas that this is the point where him and Gypsy Rose would eventually start to communicate more often, and this would be the basis where they would also start planning to kill DeeDee. So again, this is a premeditated murder, but like I said, all the that she had been through growing up? Did she not know the difference? Was she scared for her life? Or did she just really want to get the hell out and had no other option? I don't know. Gypsy is said to say that she just felt no way out. She said the only way to be free of her mum was to murder her. So the idea was that Nicholas would go back to Springfield on June 10th in 2015. And this would be when Gypsy Rose would have a doctor's appointment and would be out of the house with her mum. When they got back home from the doctor's appointment, Gypsy Rose would wait for DeeDee to fall asleep, at which point Nicholas would go to the house. She would let Nicholas in, and according to Nicholas, Gypsy Rose would give him duct tape and gloves and a knife. It was understood that Nicholas would be the one to commit the murder. Gypsy Rose would go and hide in the bathroom and cover her ears so that she wouldn't hear any of the event happening. Now, I don't know if this was overkill or part of the plan or what, but Nicholas stabbed her mum 17 times in the back while she was sleeping. Again, I don't know if it was part of the plan, or I don't know if it was a adrenaline rush or what, but Nicholas said that after this they went to Gypsy's room and had sex. They both would later steal $4,400 in cash. This was because of cash donations that DeeDee had kept in the house and child support checks from Dad. After committing the murder and having a bit of intimacy, they would run to a hotel outside of Springfield where they would stay there for a few days. This is where they would plan their next steps. They would be noticed and seen by security cameras running downstairs.
Okay, and the name on the room?
The name was Nicholas Blanchard.
Okay. Alright.
This is the house where Claudinia Blanchard was found stabbed to death. It set off a roller coaster story.
What would drive Gypsy to want to plan the murder of her own mother?
Gypsy says she hands the items to Nick and hides in the bathroom while he goes into the bedroom, matching Nick's story to police.
Okay, I'll admit it. I did actually stab her mom. I will admit it. Said help.
And then what did she say?
And then she called up for Gypsy, but Gypsy didn't do anything.
I heard her scream once, and there was more screaming, but not like the kind in a horror film, just like a startled scream. And she called out to my name.
I can't help it, you're a sweetheart. Defendant. Well then, would a sweetheart like a sweetie? Heart, winky face. Gypsy, I would, sweetie. Defendant. Then ask Daddy politely, sweetheart. Heart, winking face. Gypsy, may I have Daddy's sweetness, please? Defendant. Yes, you may, dear, but warning, once you taste it, you won't want anything. You'll be so addicted to it, darling. Heart, winking face. Heart, smiling face. Anything else? Gypsy, I'm fine with being Daddy's little addict, winking face. Defendant, that's Daddy's girl, Heart. Gypsy, LOL, laugh out loud. Defendant, why the laughter, hon? Gypsy, because I'm so happy. Defendant, that's a great reason, dear, Heart. Gypsy, smiley face, Heart. Defendant.
Okay, Gypsy, this is Stan. Hi, Gypsy. Let you guys talk. I'm Detective Hancock. I'm with Green County Sheriff's Office. How are you today? Good. Doing all right? Good. Good. All right. Well, Gypsy, I'm here and I'm going to get a little bit of information from you. So, since this is the first time I've ever met you, okay? So, what is the correct spelling of your first name?
It's Gypsy Rose. And my middle initial is A.
Okay.
And my last name is Blanchard.
B-L-A-N-C-H-A.
Blanchard is Blanchard.
Blanchard, okay, with an E, okay. All right, and your date of birth, Gypsy?
Is 7/27/1995. On here they have 91 because maybe it's a long story, but
okay, sure.
Me and my mother are Hurricane Katrina survivors.
Okay.
And my birth certificate was washed away in Katrina.
Okay.
And unfortunately, they messed up a long time when they messed up the paperwork, and I said 1991, but it's actually 95.
Okay, and that puts you at how old then?
I would be really 19, but on here it's my Medicaid. My medical insurance has 23.
Okay, all right, so how old actually are you? Let's get
19.
19, okay.
It's all screwed.
Yeah, absolutely. Gypsy, do you know your social security number?
Unfortunately, I don't. I brought my card with me,
okay.
But it's at my boyfriend's house.
Okay, we'll get with that later then. All right, now how long have you actually lived there in Missouri?
In Missouri since 2006.
2000. And now, do you have any family here in Missouri? I'm sorry, we're in a different state. So.
Okay, I have my mom that lives in...
how much schooling do you have?
Unfortunately, I was homeschooled, but my education is kind of scattered, so I have the basic of a third grader.
Okay. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer, have your lawyer present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be going to represent you before any question if you wish. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or make any statements. Did you understand everything that I read you? Okay. Do you have a cell phone number?
No.
No, not at all. Did you have a home phone?
My mom's home
okay.
phone.
What's that number? Why did she feel like that was unsafe?
My mom tended to be overprotective.
Okay. Does she? All right. If you're involved in this, then you need to tell me that now. Okay.
I'm completely 100%
okay.
honest.
And let me talk for just a second, okay? But if you're involved in this, then you need to be honest with me. And you need to tell me now and not wait till later. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want you to understand that there's just some things going on that you need to be made aware of, and I think that you're aware of it. Okay. All right. My concern at this point. Let me back up with something. You're here. Do you know where you're at right now?
Yes.
Okay, where are you at right now?
I'm at the Waukesha Police Department.
Okay. I mean, a lot of people. All right, and it hurts a lot of people, right? Because it's so big and crashes and hurts them.
Right.
Now, if you're telling the truth, that's not going to happen. Is that right?
Right.
Okay, so your mom's dead. Okay. Now, what I want to ask you is your mom's passed away. Okay, and she's deceased. All right. Now, what I want to ask you, did you have involvement in this? Okay. Just, hang on, listen to me for just a second, okay? I want you to understand something, okay? Remember the snowball that we talked about? You remember the pencil that we talked about? I'm gonna demonstrate something with a pencil here, okay? Look at me. Look at me for just a second, okay? Sometimes people are going along, you know how you got a pencil? You got the lead here and you got the eraser right here, right? You know what I'm talking about? You've seen a pencil, right? You've used a pencil before, right? Okay. And when you write with a pencil, you write your own story, right? Okay. And you take that pencil and you're writing along with your story. Well, sometimes some people make mistakes when they write stuff down, don't they? We've all made mistakes. You've made mistakes. I've made mistakes, right? You ever made a mistake with this tonight, okay? There's some stuff going on that you and I need to talk about. And why these things happen, okay? To mom that night.
I don't know what happened with my mom at all.
Okay, just listen to me, okay, sweetheart? You know what happened to your mom, okay? You know exactly. Sweetheart, listen to me. I think you know, okay? And I know that you know. All right, your boyfriend's in here, okay?
Well, he's here.
He's in here, okay?
He had put me in the bathroom, and he had locked the door.
Okay.
And he went to my mom's room, and I heard her cry. And heard her
You heard your mom crying. You heard your mom crying.
And he opened the door, and he was his hand had on it, and he had cut himself on his finger.
You know if it was his left hand or his right hand?
It was, he commanded me to clean him up.
Okay.
Told them to go to the hotel, and we went to the hotel. He only paid for his stay, and I was able to just sneak in the room with him.
Gypsy Rose had felt at this point that they had got away with it. They would post the knife back to Nick's house in Wisconsin to avoid it being found, to avoid them being found with it if they were ever searched. They would later travel to Wisconsin by bus. Those who saw Nicholas and Gypsy Rose on the bus would quote that they were walking fine and she wore a wig, but she did not look sick. Now, one thing about DeeDee is that, obviously with all this attention, DeeDee was very well known for posting things on social media, and obviously to get more attention she was constantly posting, you know, saying thank you for donations or doctor's appointment today, or, you know, anything that she could possibly post to get any attention. So when DeeDee stopped posting things on social media on her Facebook account, people started getting worried. They would begin calling the house, and when no one answered, they became further worried. So family and friends would then go over to the house to check things out. So whilst DeeDee was known to go on various doctor's visits at last minute, or spontaneously, because obviously she wanted all the attention she could get, and even more diagnosis to make sure her daughter was as sick as possible, they became aware that her car was still in the driveway. Now with DeeDee's situation, she wanted to be secretive, so she would also put basically non-transparent tape over the windows so nobody could check inside the house to see if DeeDee was okay or if Gypsy Rose was okay. So when no one answered the door after how many times of trying to get someone's attention, the police were called, but because they didn't have a warrant or means for a warrant, they could not actually search the house or enter the house. They did, however, give permission for one of the neighbours to climb into a window. When entering the house, they would see that the house looked okay, but that Gypsy Rose's wheelchair was still there as well. When a warrant arrived, due to lack of not knowing where DeeDee and Gypsy Rose were, and obviously with Gypsy being sick, the police managed to enter the house and they found DeeDee's body, and also noticed that Gypsy Rose was missing. People became a bit concerned because obviously, as far as they were concerned, Gypsy needed a feeding tube, she needed her oxygen tank, she needed her wheelchair just to get around and manage and survive, basically. It was at this point that they wasted no time in setting up a GoFundMe page to raise money for DeeDee's funeral. And for Gypsy Rose, they assumed that they were dead. Which concerns me a bit, because for you to do something that quickly, it makes me also think, was the family involved in this conspiracy? Or did they just think, let's just get it all done because we have no money to bury them? I don't know. It's very suspicious to me. Aaliyah would then be the first person to shout out to the police, you know, check out my conversation printouts between Gypsy and me and about this guy Nicholas. Some updated posts had been made on DeeDee's Facebook account, so police asked the Facebook to trace where these posts had been coming from, the IP locations. They were located to have been sent from a Facebook account in Wisconsin. The next day, Alachua County raided Nicholas's house in Big Bend. Gypsy Rose and him surrendered instantly to the police and were arrested. Gypsy was arrested on murder. Her and Nicholas were arrested on felony charges of murder and felony armed criminal action, although people were actually happy that Gypsy Rose and Nick were safe. Gypsy Rose was then extradited and held on $1 million bail money. The Greene County Sheriff would then warn the public that things were not at all as it seems.
Love, according to friend and neighbor Aaliyah Woodmansey.
She would show interest in
She soon connects with this man and pours out her soul.
I need to tell you something. I'm no model. I have a medical condition, so I can't walk. I have a chair I use. Is that an issue?
Why would that be a problem? You are an angel in my eyes. It will never make any difference in how I see you from the inside out.
And with a few strokes of the keyboard, grit online relationship blooms.
I think
think it was a blessing in disguise. It took something like a hurricane to make us have a happy ending.
DeeDee was happy enough just having medical care for Gypsy. She says she never expected this.
It's amazing. It's amazing, the outpouring of love and support.
Dr. Janet Jordan met DeeDee and Gypsy while on a mission trip to the hurricane-ravaged areas. She says she knew right away she'd see them again. It was turned into a home.
I think that's just kind of what we're all about. You know, we're all about doing what we can to help people that are in a bad situation.
It's beautiful, and it's happy, and it's full of love.
Gypsy and DeeDee say they're blessed. Dr. Jordan says they deserve to be.
Home to us. We've been wondering for so long, and this is finally our home. So it's so good to be here.
Yay.
Just left out now. Defendant, why is that, hon? Because I want to know why, dear. I hope it's a good reason, dear, or you'll worry me. Please tell me soon, honey. You don't need me worried about you. Gypsy, darling, it's 'cause I'm so happy. You're near, heart. I'm perfectly wonderful. Defendant, okay, dear, I was scared for a moment there, but now I'm blissful, sweetie, heart, smiling face, heart. True, baby, I'm getting close, heart, smiling face. Gypsy, so am I, darling, heart. Defendant, great, because that's always how I want you, honey, heart, smiling face. Gypsy, try and get some sleep on the bus, hon. Darling, I don't think the hotel takes check-ins until 11. Defendant, no, they do. I'll just have to pay a little bit more.
As to count one, we, the jury, find the defendant, Nicholas Godejohn, guilty of murder in the first degree.
Mother DeeDee's hand.
This little glass house, and she said, one day this will be real.
And I want to start off, things are not always as they appear.
He had an idea that things were looking suspicious. Eventually the media got hold of the truth of Gypsy Rose not actually being sick, and they found out that her mother had been lying about her situation and had been falsely getting money off people for many years. The sheriff even went so far as to tell the public not to donate to the funeral cause that they had set up through GoFundMe until the investigation had been thoroughly looked into and everything was finalised. He was worried that it might be another situation of fraud. Gypsy Rose would plead guilty to second-degree murder. However, Nick was charged with first-degree murder. He was given life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus another 25 years for armed criminal action, which, if you ask me, is not really fair, because even though he was the one who killed DeeDee, I have this little feeling that Gypsy Rose, having been taught by the best person in the world, I think she also manipulated Nick a bit and probably just treated him nicely just to get things out of him. I don't know. It's a very sore subject. It's a very hard thing to determine. However, Gypsy Rose's adventure did not finish there. When she was in prison, she became engaged to a man called Ken Erker, or Erler. They met through the Prison Pen Pal program. However, they split later in 2022 in July. However, Gypsy Rose married later on to a teacher called Ryan Anderson. She was married in prison, but of course they had no guests. And like I said, she was paroled in December 2023 after serving only 8 of her 10 years. She even has her own ebook called Conversations on the Eve of Freedom. She has given interviews on Good Morning America, even The View, and she has even filmed a documentary with her husband.
Hey!
Oh my god, your nose.
I know.
It looks good. It looks good.
Who are you lying to right now?
Looks like Nanny McPhee a little bit.
That's terrible! Ken and I are back together. We want to wait till the divorce is final.
It's itching like crazy today.
Late on my period. So I texted Ken and I'm like joking with him. I'm like, well, I guess you've been spared my PMS for the month. Because I guess I skipped a period. So he's like, or maybe. And I'm like, no, like, and he's like, he gave me like the big eye emoji. I'll go take a test. So I go in the bathroom, I take the test. And it came back positive.
Which was the one I mentioned earlier, life after parole, or Gypsy Rose, life after lockup. And this year, Gypsy Rose deleted her Instagram and Twitter accounts, even though she had 28 million followers. She also then deleted her TikTok, but then activated it again. And then in March this year, she split up from her husband, Ryan. And then she announced she was engaged again to her ex-fiancé, who was Ken. And then in July this year, they announced that they were expecting their first baby. So yeah. Having said that, I don't know, you might want to have, you maybe got your own opinion, maybe you believe her sub story, or at first, you know, I believed it, but then I'm looking at all these facts and I'm thinking things just are not sitting right, and it's like a puzzle, they're not, pieces of it are not sitting right, you know. Family and friends, they might have noticed every now and then things that were not looking right. You know, I get privacy, but why would you cover your windows up and, you know, make it hard for people to see if you're okay? If you're a single parent and you have a disabled child, sure, you'd want your neighbours to be partially involved, just in case something went wrong. You'd have backup, you'd have someone to take you to the hospital, you'd have someone to help you out. If you have a power cut, you know, just these things that come to my mind. Maybe it's just me. And again, I also have this thing that maybe she just really couldn't understand fact from reality, or fiction from reality, fake from reality, whatever I'm trying to say. And again, I also think that she might have manipulated Nick just to get rid of her mum. But I also do think that there is a part of her that did still want to escape her mum, because she knew the situation she was in, and she probably did feel in fear for her life, you know, and probably didn't trust the system. Especially if her mum had really filed papers saying that she was mentally incapacitated. She would not have been believed. I don't know. There's ifs and buts with the situation, but she's definitely made money off her story regardless. She's definitely made her popularity off her story. Hopefully she won't be like her mum when she has her own child. But yeah, I don't know. The judgment in a way, I guess, or the choice if you believe her story or not is up to you guys. I don't know. Jury's out for me right now. So yeah, if you do know about this case, which I'm sure you probably do, comment below your thoughts and your views. If you did like this, give it a thumbs up, and as always, subscribe so I can do more videos like this. You just have to wait till next year or after Christmas. But yeah, until the next time, I will see you later. Merry Christmas and good night and God bless.